turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake. Pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Take off the engine cover. Open the oil fill plug. This will increase the oil flow when performing an oil change. In order to drain your vehicle, you must first lift the front section of your car. This will enable you to access the drain nut. Lift the front of your vehicle and put it into axle stance. If the front plastic crankcase is present, you should now remove it to have full access to the drain nut. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, racing your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. Take off the crankcase using a flathead screwdriver, removing all of the holding screws in the process. Don't forget to place a used oil collector beneath. You can learn how to make one by watching another of our videos, how to make a collector for liquids. Using a socket wrench and a 21mm socket, unscrew the drain nut. Start the process with a wrench and finish off by hand. Be careful on the last few turns of the screw. The oil may suddenly squirt out. Let the oil run out for 10 minutes or so. Replace the drain seal with a new one. Then screw the drain nut back in. Start by hand. Then finish off using a wrench, without being overzealous, of course. When performing an oil change, it is also necessary to replace the oil filter. Access to the oil filter is done from above the engine compartment. To access it, you must first remove the air inlet conduit. Loosen the two hose clamps with a socket wrench and a 7mm socket. This can also be done with a flathead screwdriver. Remove one of the side conduits first before working on the other. Remove the rubber air supply hose from the solenoid valve group. You can now see the oil filter. Move the collector under the oil filter so that it can collect the oil which will flow once the filter has been disassembled. Using a socket wrench, a long extender, a gimbal and a 27mm socket, unscrew the oil filter flange, turning it anti-clockwise. Take the flange in your hand. And pull it out of its housing. Leave it to drip for a few moments to limit the amount of oil that falls into the engine compartment. When it has been released, turn it upwards to avoid spilling any oil. With a large flathead screwdriver, lever off the paper cartridge to separate it from the flange. Using a thin screwdriver, take out the rubber O-ring which is located on the flange washer. Replace it with the one found in the box of the new filter. The new filter is equipped with keyed connections that allow you to perfectly position the filter and ensure the optimum flow of oil. To begin with, insert the filter into its frame. Careful, it is very important to position the filter correctly. You can then put the flange in place by hand until it makes contact. To tighten it up, use a socket wrench and a 27mm socket. Adding a final quarter turn. Careful, with this kind of oil filter, the new joints can be excessively thick, making the actual tightening process more complicated. As a result, you have to ensure that the flange washer is flat against the metal engine frame. Put the hose conduit back in place. Put the air inlet conduit back in place. Alignment guides will help place it correctly. Finish off by fixing the hose clamps with a socket wrench. Now, you have to put the oil back into the motor. You have to be very careful and precise when doing this part of the job. Firstly, lower your car back to the ground and check the oil level. This is something that can only be done when the vehicle is flat. Now, add the oil into the engine. Begin by putting 90% of the suggested amount. This will leave you a large enough margin to adjust the level of oil appropriately. You can find the exact amount of oil suggested for your car in the description of the tutorial. Close the oil fill plug. Start the engine and let the car run for 5 seconds. This will fill the oil filter. Put the engine cover back on. Remove the oil gauge and wipe it down. Plunge it back into its sheath. Remove it again. And check the oil level. The optimal level is near the maximum, but be careful never to go over it. Based on the level indicated on the gauge, readjust to obtain the optimum amount. Operation completed.